Well, it's just a real treat for me to be here, and it's sort of an interesting. I'm hearing myself in a way that I feel uncomfortable with, but is it? Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't matter how it sounds to me. I thought it was kind of very, very appropriate that I filled out my intentions, and I don't know what to do with them.
By the way, they're going to be burned after the celebration, and no human eye will read it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, I thought, oh, this is just like my life. So, and in looking at the website, I saw the word church come up. So I've always wanted to start a little talk by saying, brothers and sisters. So thanks to Hannelore for allowing me to speak with you, to my dear friend Edie Weinstein-Moser, Buzz Agent Extraordinary, and to all of you for welcoming me and my wife Amy to your Sunday morning service. It's just a real thrill to be here. I'm here to talk about my novel, Or So It Seems. I'm here to talk about the evolution of the novel because it strikes me, or it has struck me, that it's very much a spiritual journey in itself, writing a book like that. And I put together a few thoughts about it before I read some excerpts and before Peter comes up and wows us with his Indian accent. So I'm here among you this morning because the movements of my life have brought me here. For 12 years, I was engaged in a solitary process that resulted in the publication of my first novel, a little intention involved with that, which can be purchased at the end of the service or on Amazon.com. Can't get too commercial, but we don't want to forget about that. Now, less than a year after its publication, I'm out in the world introducing this book to legions of total strangers. Hopefully by the end of the morning, I wouldn't necessarily think of you as total strangers in any way. But it's funny how the universe spins its web. When I began writing the novel, I was lost, confused, and not at all interested in writing a spiritually framed novel. My marriage had broken up. I was bitter and angry, and struggling to construct a life as a single parent to 3 wonderful but highly vulnerable children. And not surprisingly, the novel that took shape was bitter, angry, and focused mainly on self-righteous blame and much desired payback. That's not the novel that I'm I want you all to know that. But a funny thing happened on the road to payback. As many of you know, and I think by virtue of your being here this morning, probably all of you realize this, we're each of us walking 2 paths on our life's journey. On the first path, we encounter our day-to-day struggles, our deeply held desires, our careers, our family lives, our likes, dislikes, quirks, ambitions. The second path, which you could call our spiritual journey, takes us on a much longer and far more obscure expedition. I'll leave it to someone more knowledgeable than myself to explain where that journey originates or where it's taking us. But its main characteristic, I think I can say, is that it calls to and enlivens our deepest and truest selves. Well, without overstretching the comparison, this novel of mine, Or So It Seems, which can be purchased after the service, also traveled 2 roads in its journey. 2 copies for you, right, Bob? Also traveled 2 roads in its journey. Its journey to fullness, publication, and yes, self-discovery. The point of divergence, where one road ended and another began, occurred, sounds interesting, occurred after 7 years of hard work. Truth is, I thought I had finished the novel, thought it was finally done. But after reviewing it, an agent suggested it needed more narrative tension. If I'm honest, it was a well-written, essentially dull tale of a man putting his life together again after divorce. I understood what the agent meant and sat down to create some suspense and tension by basically just reordering a few elements in the plot. You can see a number of novels that are written by starting a novel with the crisis and then everything is drawn towards that, which is what I decided to do. The moment I started my rewrite, however, it was as if a voice sounded inside my head, and I honestly remember hearing something like this. So it's sort of an interesting way for the guides finally to approach me and wake me up and say, Now you are going to write the novel you were supposed to write. And then began another spiritual journey. Suddenly, this kaleidoscope of new ideas, themes, and characters started populating my simple storyline. As if by magic, my tale of one man's divorce became a complex and humorous metaphor for every man and every woman's spiritual odyssey. Suddenly, my straightforward, linearly told story became a rich, multi-layered plot. And if you think I was excited or pleased, you're not even close. I was scared to death. And all that work I worried, over 7 years' worth, been for nothing? It was really frightening to think of revisiting my novel at that late date. But then again, some of those new ideas, the new characters, the themes, they were pretty interesting. So playful, so much more relevant to my life's journey than anything I had written before. Well, I guess I decided that I would take a look and see where they would lead me. Well, as it turned out, those new elements blended beautifully with the old, and eventually, 5 years later, I found myself the author of a multi-level, humorous, surprisingly charming, and intensely compelling novel. Of course, I'm not saying that about my own book. People have said that to me. What one reviewer called a rollicking spiritual page-turner, and what I've often described as part odyssey. Is that for me?
Well, if you need one.
Oh, okay.
Or anyone else. This becomes very emotional.
Oh, okay. I'm ready to cry. And what I've often described as part odyssey, part oddball adventure, and totally fantastic. If there's a theme to Or So It Seems, it clearly relates to perceptions of reality. How we're so often distracted by what we see as the drama of our lives that we rarely notice how that drama fits into a much larger spiritual journey. Much the way I, in starting a novel about my divorce, failed to see that I had really begun a voyage of discovery. Failed to see that a journey that would lead towards something much larger and far more interesting than the tale of angst, bitterness, and blame that had been its original inspiration. Or so it seems. And now, with your permission, I'd like to read a few excerpts. And just before I did I mention that you can buy the book after this?